And when I look at the Labour stalwarts who were on those platforms, Labour figures like Michael Foot, Peter Shore, Tony Benn, Barbara Castle, you know, all of those, if they had been here today, would be here today. Because all of those who were involved then were the true voice of Labour. And when we look back, and when we voted then, what was a very small 9 members of the Common Market, 40 years later, 28 countries with a bloated, undemocratic, unelected commission costing us £50 million a day, £350 million a week, and £19 billion a year. I think we should all learn to be able to say that over and over and over again, because that is the cost of our membership of the EU. When we joined, the 9 members had 36% of the world's economy. Today, it is 17% and falling, literally, as we speak. The EU is a shrinking market, the only continent that's actually shrinking, where the economy is weakening. And in just one more set of figures, which I think are really important, in 2006, the European Union took 64% of UK exports. In 2014, it took 43% of our exports, shrinking as we speak. So who can say that by 2025 are we really saying that it's crucial for our exports? Our trade with the EU peaked in the early 90s, and now we have to look beyond that tiny protectionist bloc to the expanding, growing countries of Asia and South America. And crucially for me, build again those links with the Commonwealth, those countries. Those countries in Africa, in India, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, who we so shamefully betrayed back in 1973. And those countries are, of course, much more culturally and historically best suited to trade with us and want to trade with us. Now, I mentioned New Zealand because, remember, Harold Wilson went off to renegotiate, and he came back with one thing, which he pretended was a lot more than it was, but he got the right to buy New Zealand butter. But, you know, that's actually, to me, is far more than the kind of paper symbolism that I'm afraid our Prime Minister will come back with in a very short time. Because what he is going for is meaningless negotiations so that he can come back and say he's won it. And as Sammy has already said, it is meaningless. So I believe that an exit would allow the UK to sell freely to the whole of the world, and it would allow also, very importantly, for less developed countries to sell freely to us, because the net effect of this would be to improve their standard of living, thus helping to remove the desire for their people to move to the UK, depleting their own human resources. So it is a win-win for everyone. And as things stand at the moment, and this is where I think it's very shameful for some in the Labour movement, because as things stand, the EU policy at the moment condemns many, many impoverished countries to a form of hopeless servitude that should have been consigned to history. And that is why I find one of many reasons why those on the left how they can possibly go out and be arguing that it's better to stay in the EU. But we will be told, and we're being told, that we are in a minority. I have to tell you that as we go around the country with Labour Leave, we are finding that people are coming out and saying, at last, within the Labour movement, there is some kind of debate. We're fed up with the Europhiles who've been running our party, and we want to change that. We're a very proud country. We've got the 5th largest economy in the world. We've got the 4th biggest military budget. We're a leading member of the G7, and we're one of the 5 veto-wielding members of the UN Security Council. Our language is the most spoken language in the world. We have some of the best universities in the world. So why do we think we have to be timid and stay hiding in a crowd of 28? How much bigger do we have to be before we realize that we don't have to invite the unelected EU commissioners to run our affairs and tell us how to spend our money. I often look at some of the things, I didn't agree with him on everything, but some of the things that Tony Benn said. And one of the things that struck me very much was when he said, as you know, he was always opposed to the European Union, and I'm sure if he was around today, he would be here as well. He said, when you're looking at any institution, and particularly the European Union, you ask, what power have you got? Where did you get it from? In whose interests do you exercise it? To whom are you accountable? And how can we get rid of you? And if you can't get rid of the people who are governing you, you do not live in a democratic system. And I just want to point out that as a Labour MP, I see the neoliberal agenda of the European Union as not protecting workers' rights, but threatening them. And if anyone needs an example of this, we just have to see what happened to the Greek people. The EU forced austerity on Greece while breaking the democratic will of the people who invented democracy. So not only has social Europe, once so beloved by many of the trade unions, it's been shown to be anti-social Europe by attacking the trade union rights across the member states, stopping collective bargaining, and it's the EU rules that are pushing privatising of ferry services in Scotland and pushing privatisation of state railways. The casualisation of labour is something that is coming about directly as a responsibility of the European Union. And TTIP, the Transatlantic Trade Partnership, we know is a way of the multinational corporations actually taking more control. And for anyone in Labour who is opposed to TTIP, and the trade unions who are opposed to TTIP, how they cannot see that opposing TTIP, there is a natural extension to opposing the EU, and that's the message that Labour Leave will be getting across to our members. The EU is a chain holding back all its member countries. Only the people can break that change, and that's where you are so important. Every single one of you has something to do over the next few months. It's no good just talking to ourselves. It's not enough just to be able to vote on that day. There are other things that you can do. And as I said, there's no point in just talking to us, all of us who are already convinced. And there's no point arguing anywhere about which is the best of the Leave campaigns. We all want to come out, and that's what Go is about, bringing everyone together to get that message out to the country. So, I'm conscious of my 10 minutes. So we have to be prepared to go out and argue our case. Every day, we should wake up, every one of us, and say, what can I do today that will help convince someone else that they should be voting to leave when the referendum comes? We have to be prepared to put aside egos, put aside personalities, put aside things like who said what, when, and why. We have to get through all of that and build a united campaign across political parties and those who have no interest in politics whatsoever, and particularly those who have never voted before. Those are the people we are going to go out there and get supporting us. And when I see banks like Goldman Sachs giving huge amounts of money to the Remain campaign, I think people will remember just the role of the bankers in helping to almost destroy the economic systems in this country. We will have the whole establishment against us. We will have a cosy establishment of political parties against us. We will have, as I've said already, the bankers against us. We will have a huge media campaign. Some of the media have been extremely good. We still have a problem, I think, with the BBC. It's not just that they can't get here in time, but we are going to have to watch that and make sure that the campaign is allowed to be run in a way that is free and fair. We want a free and fair referendum. We don't want the establishment to belittle us and tell us that the United Kingdom is a weak country. We are a great country with the passion and energy to maintain our greatness, and we mustn't be frightened or conned into believing otherwise. We who believe in leaving the EU are not little Englanders. I'm certainly not. I'm a little Northern Irelander and delighted that we're going to have the European Football Championships with Northern Ireland, Wales and England all there in June, which I think is another reason he's not going to be able to have the referendum in June. But we are people who recognise that the future for the UK lies not in gazing ever inwards at the old European continent, but out into the wider world. So this is an issue far bigger than party politics. That's why I'm here today. It transcends the old left-right divide. If you want a United Kingdom that controls its own borders, makes its own laws, and is free to negotiate our trade deals to join, then you need to be out there to get the UK out of the EU. We have never been listened to before. We have never been asked. Now we're being asked. Let's sure we get that right result come the referendum. Thank you very much.